Now all you people, I want you to set those headphones down. Get up. I said get up off your chairs and sing it with me one time. One time. It don't cost nothing, but you feel real good. But here we go. It's the Humpday happy hour hangout. Yes, it's the Humpday happy hour hangout. Oh yes, let's all get used at the director's garage.
Hey, I'm not always ready, you know?
It's our update.
One of those things where I set up the, I set everything up, ready to go, and then I'm like, looking at other things, and I'm typing an email and doing all this, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's time to go. Turn everything on. It's too fun. All right, guys. Hey, happy Hump Day, happy hour hangout to you all. Happy Wednesday. Got the Audeze Elites. Yeah, with the thick pads. These are the thick pads. I love the thick pads. I bought a pair. I actually bought a pair of these thicker original Empyrean pads because they're so much more comfortable to me. And if I want to do, I also have other pads and stuff, but I just enjoy wearing how thick those are. So that's the thing I love. They're the most comfortable headphone on the planet. How you doing, everybody? Well, welcome to our Wednesday. Here's what I got for you. First of all, this was health week for me, so I went and got my physical, and I scheduled an MRI for the old rotator cuff issue. But I'm trying to like address all of these things because I've got a little bit of time now while I'm waiting to book jobs and I'm doing all these interviews. And I'm in good shape. I'm in really good shape. My blood pressure dropped like a freaking rock since I've been out of work. My blood pressure was 117 over 75. Dude, guys, I've never been that low. I can't remember being that low. So, crazy fun. Like, I'm like, damn, this is great. She's like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So that's what I'm up to. This week was health week. I got all my blood labs. You guys got to do that stuff. Stay on that shit. Don't let it get out of hand. Make sure you're getting tested and poked and prodded and having your blood work done, all that. But I was really happy because my last, if you remember, I think it was last year. Maybe it was last year. My blood pressure was at 1.165 over 120. I was this far from a stroke. And to bring it all back and not use any meds is, I just did it by losing weight and changing my diet up. There you go. Still got high cholesterol, working on that, but it's down from 150 to 135 in a year. So all good stuff. All good stuff. Things are working out well. Got some topics for today. We've got some stuff to talk about, and some stuff that I haven't quite finished setting up yet, which I'm going to do while I'm trying to gab. I've got a cable from Neil Snyder. He sent our way, something to check out. And I'm getting that moved over to the laptop of death so we can look at that in a little bit. Got a couple of news items to talk about, some fun stuff. All right, so we need to save all here, which should go to downloads. I hope. Yeah, let's put it there. All right, and then we're going to send that over to the laptop. Topics for today. First of all, I want to talk about Jane's Addiction. This is a crazy story. Now, Jane's Addiction, they haven't gotten together for a long time. They've been they haven't been playing together for a minute, and they got back together for a reunion tour, and they're in Boston. And out of the blue, Perry, got his last name, Perry Farrell. Perry Farrell, I think it's Farrell. I don't remember. But Perry attacked Dave Navarro on stage. There's video of this if you check the internet. Like, in the middle of this set, Dave's just over there playing, and he attacks him, like, goes after him for some reason, like something he didn't like. I don't know. And it was insanity. I mean, it was bananas. Now, Perry said that, you know, he apologized. He did a little mea culpa the next day, said, I'm apologizing. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. It was not good for the fans. Wasn't good for us. You know, I lost my shit, blah, 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 blah. But Jane's Addiction has canceled the rest of their U.S. tour, which is like 35 dates as a result of this. They're not going to, you know, Perry's going to go get whatever was bothering him dealt with, whether it was mental or what the heck was going on. But it was intense to see that. I've heard stories about Townsend and Daltrey fighting, like going to fists on stage, but I'd never seen it caught quite like that. It was something to see. It was amazing, and it's a shame because I love Jane's Addiction. I think Jane's Addiction is fantastic. Huge fan. Just thought it was great. Great music from the 90s, like one of the better 90s offerings. Very unusual, different take, you know, kind of in that alt rock, but not quite grunge, but not quite, you know what I mean? Like they had their own little niche, and I thought they were wonderful. They did terrific music. So hopefully they can get that all worked out and someday go back on tour and play together again. But I think they're terrific, and I'm sorry to see it, but it was quite a thing to see, and it was all over everywhere. If you haven't, just Google Jane's Addiction fight, and it will come up. The news story will come up, and they'll embed the video in there. That was really something. You notice I did a little different music cue this week to start. We did the soul version of the Happy Hour Hangout. And there's a reason for that, because I kind of have an affinity for the blues number, which has got the guitar solo and all that in it. Well, after last week's show, I got notified that I'd be demonetized for that cut, because there's somebody who has the rights to a song called "Please Love Me," which is a blues song. That's why I know it's that track and not the outro. Claimed that they have a copyright on it. It's a copyright infringement. So they demonetized the video and said, we're just going to revenue share over to this owner of this song. And so I filed a counter complaint saying, all right, I listened to you can listen to it too. The version that's on YouTube is by B.B. King, but it was a different singer or a different performance that they're claiming was either sampled or stolen or outright used, which it clearly wasn't because it's got totally different lyrics. But I'm like, outside of it being a 12-bar blues track, there's no similarities at all. It's a slower song. It's like, I'm like, what are they getting that? So I did file a counter complaint against that, but we're not going to be using the 12-bar blues, the Humpday Happy Hour blues song for a while until that gets resolved. Because I'm like, excuse me. So yeah, we'll you guys can listen to that yourself and decide if the open to last week's Humpday Happy Hour Hangout was a lifted song at all. I think it's completely different and fun and all the good things. Cheers, everybody. Welcome to Happy Hour, wherever you are in the world. Vote, register to vote today. There's a website you can go to called, what was it called? IamAvoter.com. If you're in the U.S. and you want to vote, if you're elsewhere, you can try doing it, but it's kind of illegal. you can go to iamavoter.com and you can register yourself to vote. That's my public service announcement for the day. Couple other things. So anyway, we've retired. So we've retired the Humpday Happy Hour blues song until further notice. Last weekend, I should say, was the Hangover Hangout on Saturday. And Mr. Ryan Dietz, who just checked in, I saw the little coffee cup come up. Mr. Ryan Dietz was our special guest. So, and what was really cool is Ryan said, well, I'll come on, but I really can only stay for about a half an hour. I got stuff to do. Dude stayed for an hour. Gave us a full hour, was pulling amps off the shelf, showing us like different amps that he uses to listen to, his Mod House headphones and stuff. Talked about how he's catching up. He's on the path to catch up on his production schedule. So y'all are going to be getting your headphones, a little quicker coming forward. He got through his January orders and really, just gave us a ton. Dude's the hardest working man in the headphone industry. Just keeps working it. So really good stuff. And I got to thank Ryan for dropping by that. It gave us a fun little diversion for an hour to learn all about his methods and how he built the headphone and where it came. Just gave us tons of info. Just a fun discussion. Had a great time. Everybody walked away from that going, wow, that was something. And if you're and you got to be in the Patreon to get that. That's $3. I'm getting rich here, folks. That's $3 to join the Patreon, and I can send you links. You won't get a link to Ryan's because Ryan wanted to keep his stuff off camera, but I did summarize all of the stuff Ryan talked about at the beginning of our solo session. So, and I understand why it's you don't like to get locked into things, especially when you're talking about production numbers and runs and things like that, because somebody will go back and say, well, you said here. I get it. I totally get it. People do that to me all the time, but that's just called a troll. Good stuff. But yeah, just a shout out to Ryan for giving us an hour of his time on Saturday. And what an interesting guy and what a fun guy, and wealth of knowledge. It brought so much to the group, and that group is fantastic because they always ask smart questions. There's no softball cheesy stuff. It's like everybody's got good questions and brings great music recommendations. Good stuff going on that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, I just want to recap those of you who missed last week. And those of you who are planning on going to Canjam SoCal, where Ryan's not going to go this year. Those of you who are planning on going to Canjam SoCal, the Ray Samuels B21 Raider, and we announced this last week. Ray was in the audience last week and told me. The Ray Samuels B21 Raider will be at the ZMF booth at Canjam SoCal. So if you haven't heard this beast or you've wanted to hear that beast, it's going to be there. So make sure you stop by Zach's room, the ZMF room, at Canjam SoCal, where you'll see a really long line, I fear, because it's the hottest amp going right now. One of them anyway. It's going to be one of the things to listen to. Phenomenal amp. Can't recommend that enough. Make sure you stop by that. But Ray was nice enough to tell us first, so we got to break it to you guys that B21 Raider is going to be sitting there at Canjam for all to listen to, and then I get to take it back here for a while. Ray is giving it to me for while I'm in between jobs and I can't afford to buy anything, so I have a solid state amp in house for a bit. So that's really kind. Great people in this hobby. There are great people in this hobby, and it's great to have our community here and to see other people doing what they do. So we got a bunch of topics there. Next episode of this show, haven't even shot it yet. I had health stuff, you know, I got my physical, all that, all came back good. And then I'm still interviewing. I have 2 interviews this week, and I've been doing a lot of prep work for all of those, giving myself the best chance at getting work. I also had to file for unemployment. And I would show the paper. So what you got to do, when I learned a few things. I've never filed for unemployment in my entire life. So one of the things you have to do in the state of California is you have to go get on Cal Jobs, which is like a bulletin board of people who are available to work. They just want you on a list so that if somebody has work, they can hire you and get you off of unemployment. Perfectly understandable. Not easy to do when you've got a job like mine, which is a television professional who's made a lot of money, and suddenly, you know, you're on this box. So I go in. I tried to apply and put myself on this jobs list, because what you have to do is you have to log in, and then you have to fill out your resume in the California form. So you have to say where you worked, how long you worked there, salary, you know, but the website wasn't working, so I went down to the actual job board on today. That was one of my outings today. So I went there, and they filled out this form for me. I hand wrote out, you know, my qualifications and my stuff, and it was real serious. It was like where I went to school, it was my jobs and what I held and how long I was there and all this stuff, and my titles and all that. And then I handed it in, and this guy who really hasn't used computers a lot sort of translated that into this form on the computer, and he gave me a printout. And under objectives, when they handed me the resume that the California Job Board now holds, it says objective, to do the best job I can, in all lowercase. And then it was so bad. I mean, nobody will ever hire me off of this, because there's nobody looks for TV jobs at the California Job Board. And this is just a perfunctory thing to make sure that you're showing them that you're available for work. But I absolutely was crying, laughing in the car on the way home as I'm reading what this guy wrote on my resume, and all the misspellings, and everything's lowercase. And I'm like, if I'm looking to hire somebody, I'm going to put this on the wall behind me as somebody I'm not going to hire. Do the best job I can. That's my objective. It's just like this show, guys. My objective is to do the best job I can. All right. I'm going to get into the chat, then we'll take a look at Neil's awesome headphone cable. If you have anything you want to show off today, because I'm in a silly mood and probably a little punch drunk, and I haven't been drinking. If you want to show off any of your gear, your IEMs, your headphones, anything at all, you just want to show it off, directorsgarage@gmail.com. Send that over here, and we'll try to squeeze it in the show today, because why not? It's 3:48, and I'm pretty much out of topics. So we're going to go to the chat, and then we'll show off Neil's headphone cable, which I think is cool. All right, and send your stuff in, and we'll try and squeeze it in today. All right. Thanks, guys. Here we go. Happy Wednesday, says David Kirshner. Binary feedback. Whoop! I think that was referring to me coming up on camera for a split second while I'm like, oh, we got to flip some buttons here and get it all set up to go. Not here. Yeah, happy hump day, everyone. I am Jay. Cheers, brother. Missed you on Saturday. Missed you, my friend. Yeah, IMJ is like another guy. He just has great questions, great ideas and stuff. IMJ, you need to talk to Neil Snyder. You need to talk to Neil about if you have a recommendation for him. He's thinking about a tube pre, and I know you are a gear guru. You know a lot about gear. You might be a good guy to give him an idea. Happy hump day, Wednesday, got the hump. I know. Meze Elite, yeah, I pulled these out in the last week. I just wanted to spend a little time with them. It's been too long. And boy, they sound good. I mean, boy, they sound good. More detail than the LCD-4, but the LCD-4's got the overall better balance. But these sound really good. God, they sound good. Very nice headphone. Very nice headphone. Very expensive headphone too, by the way. Which headphones make your head the widest? Well, definitely this one. I think this is the... Well, no, you could maybe make an argument that the 1266 makes my head wider. But these are, like, point to point. I mean, this got to be pretty much out there. I mean, this is like a whole apparatus. This looks like I got a medical problem or something. Let me see this. But man, what an engineered set of headphones, man. They broke the mold over at Meze. Meze does the best engineering, I think. Right? Can't think of anybody who does better engineering anyway. Not the prettiest gear ever, but it's just really well made. Very well made and very comfortable. Most comfortable headphones by far. Drinking the hard stuff, fizzy water, and eating chocolate. No problem with that, man. Caesar says, what kind of work do I do? Television. I'm a director. Director's Garage. There you go. Nephilim81 says, hi guys, got a new music box set. Fish. Oh, Fish. Okay. Internal Exile, amazing double set, 4 CDs, 1 Blu-ray, sounds incredible. So musically, he's doing really good today. I love that. I love that. Congrats, man. Congrats. I love hearing about that. Yes, I saw the clips on Twitter. Yeah, that was the Dave Navarro dust up with I'm going to forget his name. Perry Farrell. Oh, bad, man. Bad. I just thought it was Farrell, but I guess it's Pharrell. I don't know. It's spelled like Pharrell. I don't know. Neil Snyder says, call me a touch undereducated. Listen last night to a group, Best of Culture Club. Never heard of them before, but very good music. Culture Club was huge in the 80s, and they were a part of the second new wave assault. The first was like Split Ends and a little more on the electronica side, and Culture Club came in around 1983, I think. And they had a 2 or 3 year run of records, led by the flamboyant and enjoyable Boy George, and first of all, set a style trend. A lot of kids in our high school, I was not one of them, but like it was kind of this torn shirt kind of thing with some color and stuff. And I had a number of friends of mine, especially hung out in the radio station, that sort of adopted that Culture Club look. It wasn't for me. I was like into motorcycles and a troublemaker kind of guy more than anything. Like leather jacket, anything I could do to be, kind of the outlaw rebel dude. I don't think it worked either. It's kind of a nerd. But I worked at the radio station in high school. I was the general manager my senior year. I loved doing it. I loved radio. Radio was what I wanted to get into as a profession. And so I went to school, Carbondale, Illinois, to go and get into the radio business. I didn't know it then because I wasn't smart, really wasn't smart. But the way to break into radio is to go work for a radio station. Just go hang out and go, work in the mailroom, or go, be a PA over there and just like get coffee and shit. That's the way you make it in the radio business. That's how most radio people get going. And you do it in a small market, and then you try and build an audience, and then you jump markets as your popularity grows. But I wanted to do that. That was sort of my initial, because I was like really into music, and I knew a lot about music, even more so than today, because a lot of stuff falls out of your brain when you're 57. You start losing facts. You're like, what was the name of that guy again? Whereas back then it was like I could tell you the catalog number of most of the records I owned. Just knew, like, it was all in my head. And I had hundreds and hundreds of records, even in my teens. Took any record I could get. And then you get into the radio station, and they give you all the promo records. It's like, damn. It was fantastic. It was just fantastic. So, but I was into it. I wound up going to university, which was the wrong place to go. But they did have a really good radio station, and it's still in existence, but it's only on the web now. It's called WIDB. One of the great and first alt rock stations. They were doing alt when nobody else was doing alt. It was like they were ground floor with REM and U2 and like all the people that were breaking through. But before they were popular, you know, before they sold out, as it were. Everybody said they sold out. Before they sold out, that was everybody was on WIDB, and if it was a fringe group that nobody knew about, it was like that's where you'd find it, and it was really cool. It's a very, very cool culture to be in the alt rock scene back then, and all those bands were touring, and they would play the local bars in Carbondale, and go on WIDB and like all this stuff. But that was, and like 2 years later, they're all doing stadiums. They would all play the arena. They would do the arena tours, and you know, it's like the as alt rock, as the alt scene got so popular, it just exploded and became more of like pop music, just because more people were into it. They were like, that's really cool, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. So that's cool. Ace of Spades, howdy, fight the power, man. Fight the man, director. I'm fighting it all. JTB, you need to use KTEL Greatest Hits music. KTEL records, I had so many of those. I mean, I had one called Music Express. I mean, I can remember some of the titles of those things, and I love them. What I didn't know back then, I learned it like maybe a couple of years later. Like, I had those KTEL records. KTEL records, if you guys don't know, in the 90s, it was sort of resurrected. The concept was resurrected as Now, which was like they'd sell these CDs with like all great pop songs. So you could buy like one CD, and it would have a mix of the latest hot tracks, Billboard tracks. And it was, I think it was called Now That's What I Call Music was the thing, but they were just Now, and sometimes it would be like Now That's What I Call Country or something like that. And back before that, the predecessor to that back in the 70s was KTEL Records, and they would put great artists, a group, a phenomenal lineup of artists and great songs on one album. They'd get the rights to this stuff, really badly master it, like the worst mastering you could possibly, like, picture the worst sounding record you could think up. That's KTEL, and KTEL Records was worse. Where they mastered worse than those floppy little things they used to put on the back of cereal boxes, those floppy singles. Like, they were terribly mastered. It was totally hacked together. It was worse than even Columbia House, which did some of the worst masterings ever. But they would get these great hits. And then the other thing they did, because they wanted to squeeze like 25 songs on a record, they would edit them. They would edit them. There was somebody who would edit the songs down. It wasn't even they were taking the single, like you would get a 2-minute and 10-second version of, like, I don't know, of Hotel California. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Like, really? That was what they did. It was unbelievably hacked together records. And I loved them. And I absolutely love them. And there was a box set that came out in the 70s called Superstars of the 70s. And it was like 8 records, 16 sides. I mean, I don't know maybe it was less than that. But I actually found on eBay a copy of this, and I bought it because I remembered it. And it got so trashed because, back then I didn't even have a regular record player. It was probably just something like a case that you open up, and put a record on. I mean, just destroyed records, absolutely destroyed records. And I had this set, and I remembered it fondly because I remembered they had like Radar Love, and they had like they had a great mix of pop songs, and even like some big, I think Led Zeppelin had a cut on that. I think they put a whole lot of love on this track. So they really managed to pull together the rights to put out a great box set of hits. And again, they edited them all down. There were, but I do believe they stuck to the singles. They were actually the single releases. But that was a huge thing. It was called Superstars of the 70s, and I have a set of those records in my collection in boxes still. As JTB loves to point out to me, you still haven't unboxed your records, and you've been at your house a year and a month or two. Howdy, Ace of Spades. So we did that. K-Tel was the JTB entry. See, I brought it back to you, JTB, there at the end. Ryan, cheers. Wow, Michael, YouTube is a strange, fickle beast. Sorry that happened. He's referring to my demonetized live stream last week because of my blues number, my Humpday Happy Hour blues, which I know it's not the lyrics because I wrote the music, I wrote the lyrics myself. The music I got from, I did not, it was generated, but then I put my own stuff on it to make it original. But it's not a copied track of a classic song, so I don't know. I'm not sure what the beef is, but I did challenge it. So hopefully we'll get our Humpday Happy Hour blues track back before long. They said it could take 30 days though for them to give me a ruling on it. So we'll see. I've fought YouTube before. I've yet to lose a YouTube case. I'm hoping that this one will follow suit because I really don't play games with any of this stuff. I don't steal stuff. I don't do stuff out of turn. I actually try to do it the right way. And even like when I drop a video clip in, when I'm talking about, what was I talking about? Megan Thee Stallion. I made a fun joke about her and I showed her. If you look in the comments of that video, I make sure that I credit Megan Thee Stallion, the name of the video, her YouTube channel, and I try to link to their website. So if you're interested in Megan Thee Stallion and you want to buy something of hers, you've got a link right there. I try to I don't want to steal anything from anybody, and I certainly, if I'm going to use them, I'm going to promote them too. Because I think that that's a good thing to do. And the music videos are there for promotional purposes. I'm just using it in a little funny way. So there you go. That's that. Or I'm making a point, or I'm talking about the artist, in which case, I'll show the Talking Heads stuff, but I'll always put the cover of the album in the lower left so you can see the cover of the record or the movie or whatever it is. And then I always link in the description very clearly all that stuff. There you go. Mrs. Director got home, so I don't know how much longer we're going to go here, guys. But I do want to show Neil's. Neil sent me a really cool picture. And it was non-nude this time, so I have to credit Neil for that. And it's of his cable, and not that cable, his headphone cable. And this is cool. This is a custom electrostatic cable for an X9000 that he had made. Because I don't think he does it himself. He'll chime in now, and he's going to read me the riot act for talking about him being nude on camera again. And here it is. This is it, but I'm going to blow it up because we can do that. It's television. Look at how nice this cable is. This is really good stuff. And what's nice is because, like, if you know Stax and you know the kind of cables that Stax gives us, includes with their headphones, they're really thin ribbons that are like a bunch of individual strands of wire, and they're connected via, they're insulated by plastic, and they come out as a flat, like a strip, sort of like a, what are they, those sour ropes, those sour ribbons you can buy in the candy aisle. They look like that, except they're a cable. And I don't have, I got one, but it's a little ways. But this is an alternative. Somebody built one with real cable, with real wire, like a nice braided, looking like copper to me, like a copper wire, and then put the connectors on the end so you can connect your X9000 with a much better cable. And this is what Neil has, and that's kind of cool, and I thank Neil for sending us his custom cable for his X9000, which is now working on his own B21 Raider from Ray Samuels. He's got one. So good. I'm glad for him, though. That's a good guy. And if you have photos and you want to show off your rig or cable or anything, we do that on here. We like to share stuff. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's cool to look at. Go ahead and send me photos in an email to this address, directorsgarage@gmail.com. Very cool. Back to the chat. Nephilim says, Ryan, you are a pretty darn incredible pillar to the audio world. A lot of people are really happy with your headphones. Hope to try them soon. I really do. See, that's cool, man. We just spread the love around here. That's cool. Kevin Jock, welcome, gents. Ryan Dietz, I'd love to purchase a tungsten dual-sided. You have any idea what the wait time is? Still 6 months? Ryan says in response, I'm always in awe of how much Zach brings to Canjam. Yeah, definitely. Kevin says, Ryan says, finally landed a contract, sold 2 headphones and bought 2 different ones. Oh, so Kevin, you're retooling at home with your profits. That's really cool. That's awesome, man. The money goes right in and right out, doesn't it? That's what this hobby's about. That's awesome. Nephilim, thank you for the kind words. There should be a few sets at Canjam. Yeah, very nice. And I could throw my tungstens. Why not? I'll throw my tungstens in if you guys want to hear them. And you can find me. I'll throw my tungstens in a bag, in a backpack. I was going to bring my X9000. Sounds like Neil's bringing his, so maybe I won't. But I can bring my X9000, my tungsten dual-sided. That'd be fun. Always good. I usually bring like 2 or 3 different pairs, so very cool. Ryan says, Nephilim, thank you for the kind. Oh, we did that. Ryan says, Kevin Chuck, probably more like 5 months. But things always go wrong, take longer. I think they will. Poor Ryan. Man, Ryan's making it. And the story that Ryan told us, and I'll share this with the class because I don't think it's being out of turn. Ryan just wanted to make a headphone that sounded, about as good, if not better, but, just wanted to make a Sesfara-like headphone. And so he worked his butt off on this project because he'd been doing mods with through Modhouse. And he gets done and he's like, oh, these are so hard to drive, nobody's going to want them. And he releases them. And those of us who heard him just went, oh my God, he made a headphone that's as good as the Sesfara for $2,000. Like, there are subtle differences, I'll give him that, but it comes down to just, what do you prefer? And they were sitting out there at $2,000, so everybody went, oh my God, we got to buy these things and we'll figure out how to drive them later, but we got to get our hands on them. And the poor guy just got inundated with sales, and he just turns on, every now and then he takes some orders, opens up the order chain, and he's got to be so fast with the switch because he gets too many orders in a short time. And for people who can come in, he's like, I just can't make them that fast. And I don't blame you, man. It's rough, but it's also, and just laughing it out, but it's also a testament to how great the headphone is, how well made it is, how good it sounds. The quality, here, I happen to have it right in front of me, the quality of the Viking weave cable that's included with it. I mean, it's for real. It's for real. It's so good. So he deserves all the success he has. So, and Nephilim, where you located, we'll let you guys have that chat offline. I don't want to start calling out where people are at, unless you want me to. Neil says you can take cable and use a few weeks on the B21. I'll leave it with the amp. I'm gonna, and if one of the things Ray did, and I think did I mention this already? I'm sorry guys, my brain's going. Ray is gonna let me pick up the B21 that Zach is bringing to Canjam, and I'm gonna get to hang on to it for a little bit. I don't know how long. And I said, Ray, whenever you need it back, please tell me. I'll just send it. I'll send it right back immediately. And I thank you for the opportunity, because this unemployment, this layoff hit me right in between solid state amps. So I have no solid state amp here. I just have a tube amp. Really good tube amp. Very good tube amp. But that's all I got. So, and I have some ideas, but nothing, the right opportunity hasn't presented itself yet. So I know what I want to do. I don't know if I am going to be able to, just from logistics and availability. So just to have an amp here. And if it gets too bad, I may just break down and buy an Orig again, because that's how highly I recommend the Ohr. I think the Ohr is probably the benchmark everybody ought to be looking at, in my opinion, when it comes to great amplification, cost per value. I think the Ohr is probably the spot. You could make the argument that maybe on the higher end of that, you could maybe say the Hollow Spring. Those amps are, little higher end, yes, but I think as far as bang for buck, that and the Burson kind of fight it out in my head. But I haven't heard a Burson in a long time, so I have heard that Ohr, and it is that good. So that may be my fallback if I can't get it together. We'll see. These are all just things we talk about because we can. I don't have the money for it right now, but I'm going to have to purchase something to have a good solid state amp here just for doing the show. Next time I get enough biscuits together. Oh my God, guys. We laugh because it's funny, we laugh because it's true. Neil says, thinking of Ray Samuel's A10 tube amp as a preamp. And then you'd have the synergy of the same the same hands building the thing. There's something to be said for that too. They probably match pretty well because Ray's going to build it to go with. You're basically getting a custom thing. That's not a bad idea there, Neil. Ryan Nephilim's in Canada, Toronto specifically. Probably the most affordable one would be Canjam, New York for him, so he could get to Canjam. They used to do Chicago. That would have been easier for you, but no go anymore. They don't do. They've cut the Canjams down to just a few locations around the world. They're just expensive, and they're not getting. I guess they probably weren't making enough money on the other ones. That's my guess. I don't know. I haven't talked to them. I was supposed to do a panel at this year's Canjam, but nobody ever called me, and I'm like, I don't have time, and I'm unemployed, so not going to be exactly volunteering for a panel. But if they wanted to, they could ask me. I'd try and think of something to do, but they never said. Cheeky Fest, he's got to be bed by the hour, so night, folks. Cheeky Fest, thanks for stopping by at all. We appreciate it. Yeah, Boy George's voice, not great. I know, man. But what a talent. What a talent. No, there was a lot of negativity around Boy George, and he definitely had some drug issues, some hard drug issues. But he had a distinct voice, and a smooth voice, and a very good voice for a very good singer. And I can appreciate him. I wasn't a fan of the Culture Club music, and they were another sort of ska. They sort of ska lift band. I think the Clash was probably one of the first bands to lift ska, and the Police were also doing it at the same time. Culture Club sort of did a little bit of that. It was a little smoother music, though. A little more instrumentation in Culture Club stuff. Just trying to think back to it. But it was definitely that, second new wave of music. Really enjoyed, but I think I have a different appreciation for them today than I did back then. So I was a little more edgy back then, and Culture Club was a little too light for me. But I've gone back and I reassess that stuff like crazy. Like, I wasn't a huge, say, Chaka Khan fan back then. But going back and listening to it, it's like, boy, that was really good. Feel For You, that second wave of her stuff, because she had the big 70s hits and then came back in the 80s with some dynamite stuff. definitely, you know, it's your appreciation for music changes as you get older, and you hear different things that you're like, wow, you know, that really was pretty good, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, or I was on a Zeppelin craze and didn't, you know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, like, growing up in the 80s, my group that I was hanging out with, we all thought the music of the 80s sucked. We did. We thought the 80s music was terrible because we grew up on Led Zeppelin. And Led Zeppelin broke up before we, you know, Bonham died, before we had a chance to see him live. I was too young. In fact, all the great bands, Pink Floyd broke up 1981, you know, after Final Cut. They still toured, you know, in their separate, but they were never the same band. You know, the classic Pink Floyd lineup, I mean, some people argue the classic lineup included Syd Barrett, and that's fine. But I wasn't, you know, to us in the 80s, Pink Floyd with Roger Waters was Pink Floyd. And you know, they spun it off, and it was never as good as the sum of the parts. You know, the old sum of the parts. But the Who lost Keith Moon. The Beatles had broken up 10 years earlier. They were gone when I was like 3, so it was sucky. The band that I most listened to or most revered growing up was never together really when I was alive. But revisited them. But it's why I had such big nostalgia when they came out with the anthology, the original anthology series, and all of the different things. And we treasured our Let It Be bootlegs because you couldn't get that movie on video cassette back then. So, you know, I had a laser disc of it. It was like, God, it was one of the only existing versions of that movie we could ever see as you know, in the 80s and 90s, because we couldn't just go online and download something. It wasn't like that. It was so different. Everything was hard to get. We didn't have Napster. You know, it was before Napster. It was like music, you had to go and buy it at a store if you wanted to hear it, or you had to listen to the radio. So very different world back then. But for us in the 80s, we look back at those 70s groups. They were the icons. And the best thing that happened to us was Aerosmith reunited and had that great run of records in the 80s, because that was real Aerosmith still. Tyler's voice still was in very good shape. You know, by the time Robert Plant started coming out with like music in the 80s, in the late 80s, his first album was pretty good. The first 2 records were pretty good. Principle of Moments and Pictures at 11. They had a little sound to them, a specific sound to them that kind of dates them, but they were really good. And I've gone back and recommended those recently in different forums. But by the time he was in the late 80s, his voice was going. I mean, he just couldn't hit the notes anymore. You know, just age does that. Tyler could, when Steven Tyler came back in the 80s, he could still hit the notes. So when they came out with Permanent Vacation, Done with Mirrors, and Pump, those 3 records were insane. I mean, we got great classic 70s rock again in the 80s, but for the most part, the music of the 80s was very different. So when we finally got our REM and, you know, we fell into this alt thing, it was like we were just gasping because we didn't have our own music. We had, I don't know, it was Genesis, which was really poppy, and it was Michael Jackson, which wasn't us. You know, it wasn't my music that my friends would listen to. I go back and listen to Michael Jackson now. I love Michael Jackson, but back then it wasn't cool for us. We were looking for edgier stuff, you know. Trouble. We were troublemakers, man. We rode motorcycles. We were troublemakers. How did we get on this tangent? Okay, question. Probably lost all the viewers. Nobody wants to hear me talk about 70s music. One question. He needs an IEM that has great sound and can be used, of all things, wearing a motorcycle helmet. Can be wired or wireless. I will tell you to use this. Use the Noble Audio Mystique, which I'm going to use later tonight when I go on my walk. I'm going to do a couple of laps tonight. Noble Audio FoKus Mystique. These are the best sounding wireless IEMs I've heard, and I would swear by them. I think they're exceptional. And I use them myself, or I wouldn't use them. I would use whatever the other thing was. If you're looking for a cheaper op, I would tell you don't buy the Triumph. We tried those live on the air. That was not a good experience. I still have the Triumph somewhere. They're in a box because I never revisited them. I heard them once and went, nope, these aren't for me. They were XMEMS wireless, true wireless IEMs. That's what I would tell you. If you're looking for IEMs that are wireless, do that. If not in that range, I don't know, maybe the Critical Dusk. Was it the Dusk? Critical, I think there's a new version of that though. Critical, I'm going to type this in and figure it out. Critical Dusk. Blessing. Critical Blessing 3 Dusk. That's what I would tell you to do, because they're kind of like in that $400 or $500 range. They sound really good. I'll steer you to that and give Crin a shout out. I think the tuning on the Dusk has been great. So that's that's made by Moondrop, I think. The Moondrop, which makes the most economical and wonderful sounding stuff. In fact, the whole Moondrop line, they're doing stuff. I mean, it's mass production and it's Chi-Fi, but that's the benefit of Chi-Fi is they can do stuff cheaper. So you get a huge bang for your buck out of Moondrop stuff. And I have no affiliation. I got nothing. I got nothing for you, unless you want to buy them on Amazon and use my link. I think you can buy some Moondrop stuff on Amazon. Anyway. Yeah, the Moondrop stuff is really good too. So I would say that if you're looking for wired and, cost-effective way to do it. But if you're looking for quality, get these Nobles. And they were on Drop not too long ago. They might still be there. Go look at Drop. You'll get like a discount on drop.com. I think I have a coupon code for that, but I don't know what it is. So just buy them. I can't get anything right. I can't get anything right, boys. And I don't think they're on Audio 46 right now. Audio 46 is out of some of the Noble product right now. So there you go. That's what I would say, Neil. Go check out the Noble. I walk with these every week. I think they're fantastic. I'm a huge fan. These things sound fantastic to me. Cheeky Fest, I saw REM in 08 before the split up. Oh, we used to go to the Hangar. There's a bar in Carbondale called Hangar 9, and we didn't know what we were looking at. We didn't know who they were. We were just a band who was in town, and we liked them, but, who knew they would become who they became, And by the time I graduated, they went from playing the Hangar, this small club called the Hangar 9, just a college bar really with a stage, and by the end of it, they were playing the SIU Arena. Local little Athens band makes good, but there was that groundwork that they would come on tour. Fantastic. Yeah, Cheeky Fest. Now that's what I call. Yeah, that's when I was talking about those compilation records. I remember those. I loved them. They're so fun, You don't get that anymore, though. That experience is gone. The mixtape, the idea of the mixtape is gone. Now you have playlists. It's not the same. It's not as good. Old days were better, damn kids, and get off my lawn. Caesar says, any experience with the headphone amp in the DCS Bartok? If so, which headphone did you like with it? Well, I have, Caesar, I don't know if you know this, but I have the DCS Lena stack here. And I can tell you the DAC is phenomenal. I don't know that I haven't had any experience with the Bartok amp. I did listen to their top of the line last year, which was the Vivaldi. They sat me down with the Vivaldi stack and let me check that out on a Cispara, and it was fantastic. I don't think it was the money that they're asking fantastic. It was, I think that's a $60,000 or $70,000 stack if I'm not mistaken. And now they've got the $300 stack, which we were talking about on the live stream on Saturday, the Hangover show. They now have a $200,000 stack. Like, okay. Okay. That ain't for me. I don't know who it's for, but it ain't for me. But yeah, the Bartok is a good product. I mean, very few people say bad things about it. I think that it appeals to folks who don't want a lot of show out of their DAC. In other words, I think it's very delicate, it's very detailed, it's very intricate, it's a very clean, pristine sort of sound, but you don't, you know, the chord stuff is maybe a little more dynamic, it's a little more aggressive, it's got a little too much upper mid-range push, but it's good. It's really, I mean, for detail, chord does detail, like, you know, like, so, and the DCS stuff is more neutral from that. It's a little more, it's not as aggressive. It's in my experience anyway. And people still rave about the hollow stuff, and I heard it at Canjam. It wasn't a great listening environment, but I got a sense of that. Yeah, it's probably something I would love to spend some time with if I ever got the chance. The hollow stuff, and I also listened to the Weiss. Which is a great DAC. But as far as the amp inside the Bartok, I don't know that it's like an end-all be-all. I think it's something that DCS included, and I'm not sure that the amp in the Bartok would be as good as the Lena Stack amp, given its size and what they can probably put in it. I don't know. Anybody chime in on this one? You know, if you've spent time with the Bartok. I haven't spent enough time with the Bartok, so I don't want to misrepresent it either. And DCS has taken a lot of pounding this year. Probably don't need me piling on their gear. And somebody commented about that the other day, and I just wanted to point out, DCS did the right thing. They fired the guy who caused all the drama and threatened the reviewers, and they apologized. So, reminding you, if you missed that little soap opera chapter in our headphone world. I've got to find where I'm at on the chat. Here I am. Nephilim, yeah, man, of course, Ryan. I got a fun fact. The average rent in Toronto, Canada for a one-bedroom apartment is more per month than the cost of your double-sided tungstens. Not, wow. I don't even, Nephilim, if you came to LA, you would be in horror what a studio runs in this town. A simple studio apartment. It's, people can't keep moving further and further away from the city just to find rent that won't kill them. Craziness. Going down more chat. That's insane. I know rent has gone up a lot of years, and I guess that much. Nephilim says, it doesn't get me down though. Please know that he's incredibly happy in life. And he's got a really nice headphone system. Jesus, oh God. Oh, trouble. I'm going to avoid that one. Nephilim, Neil, nice snake, man. Now that power cable, I think you could attach that to Michael's shirt. I know, this thing would glow. You know the story behind this shirt. This is Power Up from AC/DC Boys. The last, one of the later, I think they've done one or two more albums since this one. But Power Up was a really good late era record from AC/DC. And it came in with the CD, came with that cool little light up thing that would have died years ago. But I have these little battery packs, solar charged battery packs that I take with me whenever I go on the road or I got to shoot or something, so people can charge their phone. And I just plugged it into that, and it stays on all the time, like a little sign. So until the LEDs die inside of it, I'm going to keep rocking the AC/DC. The other secret to that is that it's a much brighter sign than it appears on camera. I have a sheet of ND filter that I put over the front of that light so that it doesn't get too bright back there. Stupid television tricks. I am Jay, stoked for Canjam. Looking forward to seeing some of the garage folks there. We'll all be in our coveralls. Grease marks on her face. Awesome, dude. Good news from the doctors, the best news. Yes, Tommy V, I did go get my physical and came out gangbuster. Really good physical. Looking really good. Michael, please bring your X9000 for use with the B21 and Canjam. Will do. I can throw that in. I think I'm going to hide my car so somebody doesn't go break into it. Ken Workshop. Ken, where you been, buddy? I've missed you for a while. We haven't seen you for a minute. By the way, been playing some settings on the Hypsos and Or, because he got a Hypsos Or, and he likes it better with 4T sensing and the spread spectrum off, better bass. What? You lost me, my friend. I like it better with 4T sensing and spread spectrum off. I'm trying to remember the settings on the Hypsos. Those are Hypsos settings. Anyway, 10 volt out of the Wandla really drives it amazingly well. Oh, yeah. I don't have, I never had the Wandla. I got rid of the stack. I traded it for the X9000. Neil, send me your HM1 to use as long as you need it. I'm serious. Oh, I'll send you my HM1. Did you not promise that out to somebody else? No, you didn't. That's a different thing. Nephilim, God, what a gentleman. Nice, Neil. Oh, yeah. Neil's the best. Neil's and funny and mischievous. He gets me into all kinds of trouble. He writes stuff that I read too fast. UB40 was a ska influenced band. Yeah, they were great. We talked about those a few weeks ago. They were fantastic. They were really more of a, they really got into the reggae. They did some, Redwood Wine and all that. But they were great. They were great. I liked all those bands. I'm just a music fan. I really like music. You got to do something really bad for me to go, dude, really? Yet there are a number of bands out there that I go, really? The X9000 cable was built by Double Helix. That's a brand. Michael, hang on a sec. When you were growing up in the 80s, you thought even the Police sucked or Tears for Fears? No. Those were... But the Police that were good were the early Police. I got to explain this. The uncool Police were the Synchronicity Police. Because, all those songs from that album, those hits were... They were all over MTV, and like everybody's playing Wrapped Around Your Finger and like all that stuff. That was King of Pain. If I heard King of Pain again today, I'd probably want to vomit. Just because it got so overplayed. And it was just that poppy. The cool Police were like Don't Stand So Close to Me and Roxanne and like all their early stuff. That was the good Police. But in later years, Synchronicity, I still like. I think it's an okay record, and it certainly was their biggest hit album. But Ghost in the Machine is a better record. Ghost in the Machine is probably their best evolution. And I kind of went through a period where I hated Ghost in the Machine in the 80s, but I gotta confess, and the Robert Ludwig mastering of that record is spectacular. It's one of my best albums I have to play. It's right up there with Moving Pictures, the Ludwig version of that. If you guys don't know, Robert Ludwig is a very famous, he's a disc cutter, a master for albums. and he knew how to mix records to get the best sound on the record. And if you've got old Ludwig masterings, it's indicated in the inside wax on your records. It says RL. There's a stamp in there. If you see RL on any record, buy it, because it's going to be something special, as long as it's not scratched up by young kids like me. Get off my lawn. Whatever. But yeah, there was a when Wrapped Around Your Finger was on the air, we hated it. It was like none of our we thought it sucked. It was terrible. It's like, oh, what happened to the Police? They used to be cool, man. Where's the Zeppelin? Pass the bong. No, I never did drugs. Garrett says, I really... Cheers, Garrett. Cheers, brother. I really like the Mega 5 Electrostats, too. I haven't heard them. IMJ says, really need to hear the Mega 5 E-Stat and see if it's his liking. I haven't heard it. Maybe I'll hear it at Canjam. It's not something I'm seeking out, though, so we'll see. Adnan, hi guys, late today. Watched last week, and Nephilim, your pictures were awesome. They were, man. Thanks, Nephilim, for sending those in. That was great. Now we know your name, too, Nicholas. Yes. So kind, brother. Yes, he's Nicholas. Happy to be a part of this community with all of you. Yeah, we're happy you show up every week, man. It's great. Adnan, speaking of power, he doesn't believe in snake oil things. Neither do I. But he's getting an S-booster line power supply. Really improved his streamer. Now he's confused. We don't believe it's real until we hear it. Then we're like, damn. Michael sent me a photo of the A10 tube amp. Okay. I'll see if I can drop that over. Oh, I see. You sent me some. You did send me something. All right. We'll get that in before we go, because I can do that quickly. It's one photo. That's a lot of tube amp, dude, for just a pre. I'll show you what Neil's talking about. Man, Neil started this was like, I just want a little tubey sound in my mic, you know, a little something to give me kind of a tubey flavor to the B21. And he went from it's gonna shame him a little bit here on this. So he went from a you know, you think, well, you know, like a shit audio, like a little tube pre or something. He went from that to this. This thing's as big as the B21. It's as big as the B21. So it better be color coordinated. You better get him to color coordinate it for you. Neil. Neil, that's not a small little, you know, this thing, look at this thing. This is not just a little tube flavor. This is a tube system. It's an integrated amp, folks, what it is. Holly just came in the room. Damn. Hi, I have a fly on the wall. Can I borrow your howitzer? Bam! Good Lord. I'm not... There are smaller ways to go that might get you the same tube influence on your amp. I'm just saying. Adnan isn't confusing, very logical as to why you hear better, more realistic with the S boosters. Great value there. I haven't tried it, so I'll take your word for it. If you hear it, and as I always say, if you hear it, then I believe you. I believe you hear it. There's somebody with a leaf blower outside. Really annoying. Prog Rock, Phil Collins, Marillion. Not many associate Phil with Prague. So talented. Well, we did I think we did assign Genesis to Prague. But I think once they got to sort of... I think Abacab was the turning point. Abacab was, like, they had a couple of pop songs, Turn It On, and Follow You, Follow Me, and things like that. But they were more prog, I think. And they kind of developed, you know, once they obviously lost Peter Gabriel, and they were still prog in that era, because Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is one of the great prog albums. But by the time they got to Abacab, they were more, you know, they started to turn to that pop, you know, they went to where the money is. I don't blame them. And they became one of the biggest bands of the 80s by far. And Phil Collins was everywhere for a while. He was playing on everything. And he was a great drummer. He can't play anymore, but he was a phenomenal drummer. And he had solo records and collabs. He did collabs with people and collabs with Stevie Nicks and collabs. He did collabs with everybody. He was just ubiquitous. Played both ends. He was the one artist that played both ends of Live Aid in 1985. Live Aid was a huge fundraising concert, and some of you might be familiar with it. I mean, if you weren't born yet, you might have heard of it because of the Queen connection. Queen's greatest performance, they say, was at Live Aid. It was right before Freddie Mercury. Either he had it already, or it was just before he contracted AIDS and HIV and passed away. But it was this massive two-city concert raising money for Africa, for hunger in Africa. And the cities were Philadelphia and London. And so, because of the time difference, Phil Collins was the one artist. Led Zeppelin reunited at Live Aid. Had played a terrible set, but and Phil Collins was the drummer for Zeppelin. And that was one of the problems, why it was such a bad set, because they weren't rehearsed. But Phil Collins played in London, and then jumped on the Concorde, which was still flying back then, and flew into I don't even know if they flew into Philly, but they got him to America, and he played the back end of the Live Aid in the States. So he was the one artist to play both venues, Philadelphia and London. There you go. Neil, get the Western Electric 91B. Guys, that's a $15,000 pre with a 300B, with a pair of 300B tubes in it. It's just one of the sexiest creations around. I'm going to go to Western. I'm just going to show this off real quick. We're going to go to Western Electric.com. Here we go. So I'm going to show, let's see, buy the 91E. Here, folks, is the Western Electric 91E. Check this out. I mean, folks, that is a pre, but it's also, how much is it? Got 5 stars from Stereophile, and that's everything, guys. When Stereophile says it's great. About 3 people out there just blew their brain out. Sorry. But yeah, this thing is, oh, they don't want, they don't have it. Sag. But, yeah, it's about, I think it's about 17,000 for this thing, if I'm not mistaken. They also have monoblocks coming out. Check out the sex on these monoblocks. I mean, this is bananas. These are the tubes. I have these tubes, of course. I did a whole show on those, like early on in this thing. But and then they've got a solid state pre coming out, so integrated. So really cool stuff. I haven't seen the CD player. It kind of fits the bill. But the real news is on their amps. These two amps here, this integrated amp. So Neil, I think that's something to aspire to, because you just need a preamp, and you want to get a little bit of a tube sound. This right here will give you the finest little bit of tube sound you've ever had. It'll only cost you a car. Nephilim says, Adnan, Fish Era Marillion was one of my favorite bands. Really awesome. Also, Michael, I understand you are where you're coming from with the cool police, if you will. I get it. Yeah, I mean, years later, like I said, I appreciate it all. But back then, it was like we were trying to be, we had our own cool thing, and we were trying to we wanted music to come back like that was, like our favorite bands. This is growing up, Zeppelin and The Who and Steppenwolf and like all those great bands from the 70s and Black Sabbath, and we wanted to hear all that stuff. Deep Purple. Okay. Anyway, so we looked at that. Fish. I know. Fish. Got it. I knew of what you spoke, Adnan. Just got his Internal Exile box set. Okay. That's Fish, I guess. Best cover band of all time, Dred Zeppelin. I know Dred Zeppelin. Yes. They were outstanding. I had that CD. They were fantastic. Dred Zeppelin took different beats, some reggae, that's kind of the Dread, and they did a mashup with Zeppelin tunes. So, and they had a whole album of that, and I have it on CD somewhere, or I used to have it. They're great. Go look them up. If you've got time, go on like Tidal or something and type in Dred Zeppelin up. They've got to be there. But it's like Dreadlocks versus adding with Zeppelin. It's really good and funny too. I mean, it was good stuff. They didn't take themselves seriously, but it was good music. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Michael Genesis actually flipped the switch with Duke. See what you did there. Trick of the tail. In 1980, a year before Abacab. Yeah, they had some, but it still had sort of, I thought that album had a little more, still some prog on it. The Abacab to me was like straight commercial. Like everything on it was commercial. I'll have to go back and revisit Duke and listen to that again. But I thought there was still some like kind of weirder, some more out there songs on Duke. It is an awesome album. They're all awesome albums. And Abacab was the one that I liked of their pop stuff. And years later, I went back and I finally appreciate the Genesis album. It just took a while because it was so popular. Nobody wants stuff when none of my friends and myself included. I'm always behind the curve. I didn't like Nirvana when it came out. I went back and got into Nirvana later because it was just everywhere. It was just so saturated. I'm like, I always wanted what was different. And that's why when Oasis came out, I was so hot for Oasis. And that's why when U2 went for that industrial sound, it was a new sound. It was something I hadn't heard before. And I was all over that, whereas like the grunge scene was just an evolution out of what was hair metal of the 80s. It taken to a more raw, kind of like crossed with punk. It just didn't grab me the way, it was obviously loud and like it did all the things, but I also probably my music was changing by then because I was in my late 20s I was in my 20s at that point. I was no longer in high school, so I don't know. Different perspectives, different eras. Appreciate it all now. Time heals wounds. And I was wounded by some of that music. Why are the kids listening to this? So stupid. One band that I did like that was on trend at the time, and I actually bought them hook, line, and sinker, was the German band. They did Super Unknown, Black Hole Sun. Drawing a blank. And I just had their name was just in my head 2 seconds ago. Black Hole Sun guys. They were right out of grunge. They were a grunge band, without question. I'll look it up. Soundgarden, thank you. They were grunge. They were just a little bit different on the grunge end, because I never like. To this day, I don't know if I've ever listened to an entire Pearl Jam album. I've listened to some of it, but you know, I got a song or two here and there. Stone Temple Pilots, maybe a little better, but still very like mainstream, too mainstream for me. Even though like Nirvana probably wasn't when they came out, because nobody had heard like that rawness since punk. But to me, it was like punk was a better evolution of what Nirvana was doing at the time. Now I can go back and go, wow, that was really cool. You know. I'm Jay. He's for it all. Won't ever replace Chester Bennington, but let them move on. I don't get the reference, but I'll look it up. All for it. Oh, Chester was the Linkin Park singer. See, Linkin Park is past my time. Crazy. So what do you think about the new Linkin Park singer? Haven't heard it. I haven't listened to any of it. No time, boys. I'd love to. Chester Bennington was the Linkin Park singer. Yes, of course. My YouTube is all about the LP and don't even listen to them since high school. Oops. Almost turned us off. Almost disconnected us. Hey, end the show fast. Getting through the last few and then we'll say goodbye for this Wednesday's Humpday Happy Hour Hangout. Yeah, Linkin Park was like late 90s, early 2000s, and I was moving at the time. I was pretty much out of the music scene because I was trying to make it work in LA, crossed with, I don't know what music scene I was into. I was probably still, I don't know what I was into back then. Maybe U2. But I hated that pop record so badly from U2. They did that. They did Achtung Baby, and I rode that album for about 10 years. I wore that if I had a vinyl copy of it, which I finally do, but back then it was all CD. It would have been completely worn through because I played that record so much. That was the sound. But they never did anything like it again, and they never topped it. It's still the pinnacle of their career, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of people will say that like Unforgettable Fire or Joshua Tree was their peak because it was their peak popularity. Musically, for me, the most interesting record, and maybe the most interesting record of the 90s, was Achtung Baby, because it came out of nowhere. It was a completely different sound. They took that German industrial techno and put their own thing on it, and I'd never heard anything like it. That was the moment, and I've said this before, I've probably said this on the show. Listening to Achtung Baby for the first time, I said at that time, I now know what it was like for people when they heard Sgt. Pepper for the first time. It was unlike anything they'd heard prior. Yeah, they kind of danced around it a little bit. There was a song or two on Joshua Tree that had a little bit of that influence on it. Just like you could say Tomorrow Never Knows sort of queued up that psychedelic era for the Beatles. But hearing that album for the first time, and it was so good, track to track, and it was so different. It was so different. The percussion was different. Everything was different on that. The distortion was different. The syncopation was different. Everything was different about that record. It was that was the album that of my lifetime that probably wowed me the most. The other one would be American Idiot, which was a reinvention of the rock opera. I thought Jesus of Suburbia was a masterpiece. That's a masterpiece song, and that album is a masterpiece. It was a musical snapshot of where we were in the Bush era. It was so well done, and it's still relevant today. 91E's all over it. Love the looks. Here you go. Done deal. Love the looks. It's on mine. Is it really on sale at Upscale Audio for $9,000? Oh my God, that's a steal. Such a steal for you. It's a beautiful looking product, and to have 300 Bs in it in your preamp chain. But I'm like, oh my Lord. I think the list on that though was like 17 when it first came out. Maybe they found a way. Have you ever listened to Deep Purple, Grand Funk Railroad? Yeah, they were staples. Those were staple groups for us. Absolutely. Love them. You know, I had Made in Japan. I had that even back then. It's a bad copy. I mean, it's all scratched up because it was, you know, how many times did you play Smoke on the Water? How many times did you try to learn Smoke on the Water? It's the first song. It's one of the first songs that you learn on electric guitar. Deep Purple. They had an 80s resurgence too, limited. Kind of poppy. I liked it. My Woman from Tokyo and Godzilla, wasn't that theirs? No, that was Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah, they had it, but they had an 80s resurgence. What's going on, everybody? Says Dixter. Sorry, just catching up, trying to find my place in the chat. Last few guys, and then we're going to go. I've said that 5 times now. Nephilim, you like Jethro Tull. Big fan here. I'm a much bigger Jethro Tull fan now than I was back then. I don't know what it was. Something about the music, wasn't hard enough for me or something, which is silly because you listen to Locomotive Breath and like unbelievable. Like hard, it just never, I don't know, something about Jethro Tull back then. Much bigger fan today than I was back then. Neil says when he was in solitary confinement in prison, they fed him 24/7 Inagata de Vita as part of his torture. Well, at least the repetition was once every 23 minutes. I mean, it would have been far worse had they played you the K-Tel Records version of My Sharona, which is a 2-minute loop that would go back on itself. The Knack, ladies and gentlemen. Classic 80s. Late 70s, 80s. Dixter says, just in case anyone wants to know, the KNC9 can drive the Modhouse Tungsten with plenty of headroom. Sound pretty amazing for a portable. Awesome, man. Good to know. I'm sure Ryan will love to hear that. I sent him my, I don't have my intruder here. I sent it off to Ryan to check out. I am Jay. It was a dark day. Neil Snyder was released from solitary confinement. It was a dark day while he was in solitary confinement. It was a dark day and a dark night. The tungstens come alive with tubes. I agree. It sounds phenomenal on my Woo WA5LE. Awesome, thanks. Adnan, Jethro Tull, pretty damn cool, passionate, passion play, thick as a brick, Aqualung, terrific. Best of all, Steve Wilson remixed them. Very good. I should go back and listen to all that again. I don't have time, boys, but I want to. If you want to hear a California band that's good, try Dada. Copying that over, Dixter. I'm going to put that in my show notes. I should publish if I had more time, I would publish my show notes, because I take notes on these things so that I can go back and go, hey, this guy recommended something really cool. And if I'm looking for something to listen to. German band Kraftwerk, yes, that's part of the influence that went into that Achtung Baby album. Was those German techno bands. But they also stole from the heavy industrial sound. Integrated all of it, and then put, of course, their own sound to it. That album was just revolutionary for me. And if you haven't spent time with it recently, go put it on your head. You know, put your headphones on. Check out Achtung Baby, and just try and listen with fresh ears, because a lot of the songs you've just heard a lot, but try and put yourself in the mindset of somebody who'd never heard it before. And I tried to do that every so often with Sgt. Pepper over the years, a couple of the landmark albums, you know, in our lifetime. There have been several, like, you know, The Wall was pretty landmark. Certainly Dark Side of the Moon, which was, you know, I would have been like 5 years old. I wasn't listening to that back then. I was listening to Simon and Garfunkel or something. I don't think Barney was on TV yet. But you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're listening to back then. But I always try to think of, like, what did it sound like the first time they heard that? And the Achtung Baby was that album for me. Like, I'd never heard anything like it before. And it just changed my world. And I think we felt that way. REM we kind of grew up with, and it was a different sound, but it was familiar too, because it did have a lot of that Bird's 12-string guitar sound to it. It wasn't a new sound, but it was a new take on an existing sound. Even Tom Petty sort of fell into that a little bit in his 80s, some of his later 80s years. But it was, you know, the 12-string jangle guitar, set to some different rhythms, certainly some different harder hitting syncopated beats. So very good. Dada. Oh, I think I've heard Dada before, but I'll check it out. I'll check it out anyway. All right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping it up. Devon Graves of Psychotic Waltz. Listen to the track My Grave. I will. Nephilim, thank you. I'm gonna copy that over here. But let me get the goodbye music going, seeing as that's not copywritten. Guys, go back to the top of the show if you want to hear the deets of the copyright infringement thing. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys for stopping by the Director's Garage today. Tip your waiters and waitresses on the way out the door. Thanks for showing up, man. You guys made some interesting conversation and kept it all flowing today. So fun when you guys do that. It makes it really enjoyable for me, and easier too. And I hope you enjoyed the content. We talked about a lot. We went to a lot of places today. So cheers, everybody. I've got a new episode that'll come out. I still have not shot the next episode. It's the box that was sitting on the floor is still sitting on the floor. It's just been a busy week, and there's nothing. And I'm unemployed, but I'm trying to get work. So the sooner I can get to work, the sooner we're going to get more episodes out. Canjam preview coming soon too. I'll do a Canjam wrap-up show after Canjam. I don't know if I'm having a preview show, but we'll do a live stream next week before Canjam, certainly. So anyway, cheers, everybody. Have a good week. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you before you know it. How about them apples?
Set his headphones down. Time. 'Cause it's headphone king. 'Cause it's time for happy hour, people. Let's hang out and get wasted at the director's garage. Oh yes, it's time to get juiced.